Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Everyday English Podcasts, where you improve your English by listening to meaningful and inspiring stories. Today's story is about determination. Life is not always easy. Sometimes we fail. Sometimes we feel tired. Sometimes we wonder if we should give up. But what if our biggest success is waiting just one more step ahead? Today, I want to tell you the story of a young athlete named Emma. Her dream seemed impossible. Many people doubted her. Even she doubted herself sometimes, but she learned one important lesson. Success is not about being the strongest, it is about refusing to quit. Let's begin. My name is Emma. I have loved running since I was a little girl. When I was 8 years old, my father bought me my first pair of running shoes. They were bright blue. I still remember how excited I felt. Every afternoon after school, I ran around the neighborhood. I wasn't thinking about competitions. I simply loved running. It made me feel free. The wind on my face, the sound of my footsteps, the feeling that I could go anywhere. Running became part of my life. As I grew older, my dream became bigger. I wanted to become a marathon runner. When I told people about my dream, many smiled politely. Some encouraged me, others laughed. A marathon? That's too difficult. You'll never finish one. At first, those words hurt. I started asking myself, what if they're right? But deep inside, another voice said, what if they're wrong? That small voice became stronger every day. After finishing college, I decided to take my dream seriously. I created a training schedule. Every morning, my alarm rang at 5 o'clock. Sometimes I wanted to stay in bed, especially during cold winter mornings. But I remembered my goal. I got up anyway. I put on my running shoes, and I started running. The first weeks were very difficult. After only 3 kilometers, I was exhausted. My legs felt heavy. My breathing was fast. Sometimes I stopped to catch my breath. Sometimes I wondered if I was making a mistake, but every day I ran a little farther. 3 kilometers became 5. 5 became 8. 8 became 12. Little by little, I was improving. One morning, while I was training in the park, an older man stopped me. He smiled and asked, "Training for something?" "Yes," I answered. "I want to run my first marathon." He smiled again. Then he said something I have never forgotten. "A marathon isn't one on race day. It's one on all the mornings when you choose not to quit." Those words stayed with me. Whenever training became difficult, I remembered them. Not every day was successful. Sometimes it rained. Sometimes I felt sick. Sometimes I had no energy. On those days, I reminded myself that progress doesn't have to be perfect, it only has to continue. There were also days when life became busy. I worked full time. I had family responsibilities. Some evenings, I arrived home feeling completely exhausted. The easy choice was to skip training. Sometimes I did, but I never stopped for long, and if I missed one day, I returned the next. I learned that one bad day doesn't destroy your dream. Giving up does. Months passed. My body became stronger. Running became easier. But my biggest change wasn't physical. It happened inside my mind. I stopped comparing myself to other runners. Instead, I compared myself to the person I had been yesterday. Every small improvement mattered. 1 extra kilometer, 1 minute faster, one difficult workout completed. Those small victories gave me confidence. One Saturday morning, my coach gave me new training shoes. He looked at me and smiled. "You've earned these." I looked at the shoes and laughed. "They won't make me faster." "No," he replied, "but they'll remind you how far you've already come." That afternoon I looked at my old blue shoes. The same shoes my father had given me years before. They were worn out. The color had faded, the soles were almost gone, but I couldn't throw them away. They reminded me where everything started. Dreams always begin with small steps, not giant leaps. Small steps. As race day got closer, I started feeling nervous. What if I couldn't finish? What if I disappointed everyone? One evening I called my father. "I don't know if I'm ready." He was quiet for a moment, then he said, "Emma, remember when you learned how to ride a bicycle?" "Yes." "You fell many times." "I did." "But you always got back up." He laughed. "You've been preparing for this your entire life. Trust yourself." After our conversation, I felt calmer. I realized something important. Confidence doesn't mean having no fear. Confidence means moving forward even when you are afraid. The night before the marathon, I packed everything carefully. My running shoes, my race number, my water bottle, a light jacket. I checked everything twice. Then I went to bed. But I couldn't sleep. I kept imagining the race. Thousands of runners, the starting line, the finish line. Would I really make it? I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. No matter what happened tomorrow, I had already become stronger than the person I used to be, and that was already a victory. The morning of the marathon finally arrived. My alarm rang at 5 o'clock. This time I didn't feel tired. I felt excited. I got dressed quietly and ate a simple breakfast: oatmeal, a banana, and a cup of coffee. Then I looked at myself in the mirror. I smiled. This is the day you've been waiting for. When I arrived at the starting area, I couldn't believe my eyes. Thousands of runners were already there. Some were stretching, some were laughing with friends. Others stood quietly, listening to music. Everyone had a different story, but we all shared the same starting line. As I pinned my race number to my shirt, I felt butterflies in my stomach. I closed my eyes for a moment. I remembered every early morning, every rainy day, every difficult workout, every moment when I wanted to quit. They had all led me here. A few minutes later, the announcer welcomed everyone. The crowd became silent. Then the starting horn sounded. The marathon had begun. The first few kilometers felt easy. I smiled as I ran through the streets. People stood on the sidewalks cheering for us. Some held colorful signs. Others clapped their hands. Children waved excitedly. The energy was incredible. I felt strong. I felt confident. I thought, maybe today is really my day. Around kilometer 15, my legs started to feel heavier. My breathing became faster. The excitement slowly disappeared. Now it was only me and the road ahead. I reminded myself to stay calm, one step at a time. That became my rhythm. One step, one breath, one more step. Around kilometer 25, everything became much harder. My legs were sore. My shoulders felt tense. Even smiling required effort. I looked ahead and saw many runners slowing down. Some were walking, some had stopped to stretch. For the first time, I thought about giving up. A small voice inside my mind whispered, "You've already done enough. You can stop now." For a few seconds, I almost believed it. Then I remembered something my father once told me. You don't discover how strong you are when everything is easy. You discover it when life becomes difficult. I took a deep breath. I kept moving, slowly, steadily. I didn't need to be the fastest runner. I only needed to keep going. At kilometer 35, I felt completely exhausted. Every part of my body wanted to stop. I looked down at my running shoes. Suddenly, I remembered my old blue shoes, the ones my father had given me when I was a little girl. Back then, I wasn't running to win anything. I was running because it made me happy. That memory changed everything. I smiled. For the first time in several kilometers, I smiled. The finish line was getting closer. People were cheering louder. I could hear my name. "Come on, Emma. You can do it." I didn't know who those people were, but their encouragement gave me new energy. The final kilometer felt like the longest one of my life. Every step hurt, but every step also brought me closer to my dream. Then I saw it, the finish line. It was right in front of me. I couldn't believe it. Tears filled my eyes. I crossed the finish line with a huge smile on my face. I wasn't the fastest runner. I didn't win a medal for first place. But at that moment, none of that mattered. I had finished my first marathon. I had kept the promise I made to myself. A volunteer placed a medal around my neck. She smiled and said, "Congratulations." I looked at my medal, then I looked at the sky. I whispered, "We did it." A few minutes later, I found my father waiting for me. He gave me the biggest hug. "I knew you could do it," he said. I smiled through my tears. No, I finally believed I could. That was the biggest victory of the day. Not finishing the marathon, believing in myself. Sometimes people think success happens overnight, but they don't see the early mornings, the sacrifices, the failures, the doubts. Every successful person has moments when they want to quit. The difference is that they keep moving even when progress feels slow. Today, I still run. Not because I want to win every race, but because running reminds me that life is very similar to a marathon. There will be easy days. There will be difficult days. Sometimes you'll feel strong. Sometimes you'll feel like giving up. But if you keep taking one step after another, you will get closer to your dreams. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day you'll look back and realize how far you've come. If you're listening to this today, I want you to remember something. Your dream is worth fighting for. Don't compare your journey to someone else's. Move at your own pace. Celebrate every small victory. Believe in yourself. And never let fear decide your future, because the person who refuses to give up is often the person who succeeds. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope this episode inspired you and helped you practice your English. Now, I'd like to ask you a question. Have you ever wanted to give up on a dream? What kept you going? Write your answer in English in the comments. I'd love to read your story. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs a little motivation today. Keep learning, keep listening, and never stop believing in yourself. I'll see you in the next episode of Everyday English Podcast. Goodbye.